Astronomer Sir Fred Hoyle once said, "Space isn't remote at all. It's only an hour's drive away if your car could go straight upwards." Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, Bob and I are going to be teaching you about space exploration and how we get started. So, let's get started. At first, the only way people could explore space was to look up at the night sky. But what you may not know, when you look up at the daytime sky, you're still looking at space. Just the light coming into the atmosphere kind of reflects down and makes everything look blue. So unless something is particularly bright, like the moon, or Venus, or some stars you can see early in the morning or in the evening, you're really not going to see it through the sunlight. With mostly just the blue light making it through the atmosphere, it can be very hard to see objects in the night sky. Any light can actually interfere with what we can see. That's why if you're in the city near the bright lights, you don't see too many stars when you look up. But if you go out into the country away from the city on a clear night, you can often see a lot more because you don't have that light interfering with the dim light from the stars and the light reflecting from the planets and other things that are out there. You're right, Bob. Let's take a closer look. On the left, you can see what the sky looks like in the inner city, and each step right takes you further out away from lights. One of the first tools invented to help us see the night sky was the telescope, although it didn't look quite like this. This is a little bit more advanced. But telescopes use lenses and curved mirrors to catch and focus the light so you can see it better. That little bit of dim light you get from distant stars actually gets caught and magnified to your eyes so you can see things that you wouldn't normally see. Although there are many things you can see with just your own eyes at night if it's a clear night. Although it takes practice to use one, a sky map can be very handy for checking out constellations and other objects. InTheSky.org has some great maps that you can filter to see what you want. Satellites, shooting stars, even the space station you can sometimes see. NASA has a link that you can follow, and you can even sign up to get text messages, and they'll send you a notice based on what city you put in on what time the space station will be passing over. When I found out, it's looking through, a lot of times the space station is technically above us, but because of the angle, you can't always see it because of trees, hills, cities, things like that. They only send the text out when it's above, I think, a 40-degree angle, so that gives you your best chance of seeing it out over everything else. What's up, Bob? I'll get there, hold on a second. Moving on. Studying the stars and outer space in the sky is so important that we've actually built entire buildings called observatories around very large telescopes. And several of them are in the United States. To help see better, and not really to get closer to the stars, but just to have less air to look through, they're often built very high up on hills or on the mountaintops. With telescopes, scientists are able to map the surface of the moon and to some extent even the surface of Mars. Now, you can only go so far with Earth-based telescopes. Eventually, something needs to go up above the atmosphere. And we have a couple options. We can send machines, we can send people inside machines, or what scientists have done before sending people, they actually send animals. So some of the first animals up in space were mice, chimpanzees, monkeys, and dogs. Now, the rules have changed a lot since the 1950s when scientists at NASA, that's in North America, and over in Russia started sending animals up. Now, the rules are a little bit stricter on what you can do with the animals to protect the animals. Let's take a quick look at satellites. Man-made satellites are things we put into space that go around the Earth or the Moon or even the solar system. And NASA has a whole series on satellites that can show you the different levels. And satellites can have many jobs. They can take pictures of the Earth, they can connect cell phones and send other signals, they can be used as radar, they can do lots of different things. We actually have many satellites in space that have large telescopes built in, so they're not looking through the air, and they can have very large lenses and mirrors to record signals and send them back to Earth. So with these telescopes, satellite telescopes, one of the most famous is Hubble, we can actually see very far from the galaxy, much farther than we've ever been able to see with telescopes, even the large ones in the observatories on Earth. Now, to take our equipment or people into space, we need some spacecraft. Now, if you hear spaceship or spacecraft, they mean the same thing. It's just a generic word for a machine that takes stuff into space and travels around in space, whether it's going to the Moon, the Mars, or just up and back down onto Earth. If it goes into space, it's a spacecraft. And there's many different types. We have rockets, shuttles. Now, if you're a person that goes into outer space and you're from the United States, you're an astronaut. Different countries with different space programs have different names for the people that are trained to go up into space. For example, in Russia, they're called cosmonauts. Now, outer space isn't exactly friendly to people. There's no air, there's lots of radiation. If you're in the sunlight, it can be very hot. If you're not, it can be very cold in space. So inside the spacecraft, which Americans used to travel in the shuttles before, now we hitch rides up with the Russians in Soyuz spacecraft, which we'll take a look at. If you're riding on the inside, it's like riding in a car, except you're leaning way back and you're going up very fast. And you can almost get away with regular clothes, but they have lighter spacesuits just in case, that have equipment that monitors them and keeps them safe, just in case something would happen, they get an air leak, things like that. If they want to go out into space, they actually have to put on heavier spacesuits that are more equipped for being out in space for a long period of time. Let's take a look at some of the different spaces. There are many. There are many more and many in development. If you're interested in working for NASA, developing spacesuits is a great field to get into. I've heard several scientists describe the spacesuits that they wear on their spacewalks when they leave their spacecraft to go work on the outside, like perhaps the space station, or to go down the moon, which we haven't done in a very long time. We'll get to that later. They refer to them as a miniature spacecraft Because the spacesuit has everything you need: air, heat, water, a very uncomfortable bathroom. You have a big backpack, basically a small jetpack to help you move around, radio equipment, your helmet. When you turn your head in a space helmet, the helmet stays where it's at, and you just move your head inside it, not like a motorcycle helmet that moves with you when you look. Inside our current space station, you often see astronauts going around with a comfortable shirt, a pair of shorts, and just in their socks. Their socks are a lot less damaging than shoes if they'd actually bump or kick something as they're floating by. Now, if you'd like to become an astronaut, there's a couple criteria you have to meet. But don't worry, they're not just looking for pilots. They're looking for all kinds of scientists and other careers. And as we get better at sending people up into space, there'll be more and more openings for different types of careers to go up into space, if that's something you want to do. Well, that's it for today. Till next time, happy exploring.